This week we have a work of finding a relationship among many different kingdoms and a new relationship of ours with the kingdoms. And it is foreseen to have a more conscious contact or a more conscious openness of ours with the mineral kingdom, with the plant kingdom, with the animal kingdom, and with the human kingdom. Sometimes we do this consciously through a practical work, but sometimes we also do it intellectually or mentally, or we do it subjectively. And we have to use all these possibilities. As long as we integrate ourselves more with these kingdoms, availing ourselves of the opportunity of being in contact with these ideas, these pieces of information, etc., so that we can help the planet in so many crises that are taking place, or collaborating with the kingdoms in that which they are supposed to develop. Because we already have information about what each kingdom of nature is developing today. So, for example, the mineral kingdom is now having its structure being subtilized. The structure of the mineral kingdom is becoming subtilized. And for this, there is a work of Saturn, the consciousness of Saturn, upon the mineral kingdom. And Saturn, as a consciousness, is working on the mineral kingdom so that new forms may be materialized, because the forms also change. It seems like a stone has always been a stone, but it's not like this. Even the form of the stones also change. So everything is in transformation. And at this moment, the consciousness that we call Saturn is taking care very especially of making the mineral kingdom more subtle than it is. The crystals and certain minerals are preparing themselves to anchor some extraplanetary energies that have not yet been anchored on Earth. So our work with the mineral kingdom is a work of a huge responsibility, because before certain minerals, we should not be confirming their situation, confirming their characteristic, but we should be facilitating with our human energy or our spiritual energy or our mental energy. When we work with these minerals, we should be helping for them to be in conditions of receiving new energies that will subtilize it. And with this, the mineral kingdom will start having a much greater magnetic force than the one it has today. And this magnetic force that the mineral kingdom has to develop will assist the entire planet to receive new energies from the sun, and even new energies from other solar systems. So we have to be very careful when we extract minerals from the soil, from the ground, because some minerals at service of humankind are supposed to be extracted from the ground. But we should do it very consciously, or better saying, we should be very economic in our needs, in our use of all these mineral products, because some minerals should remain where they are, so that there they may be energized in a different way, and from there they may exert an influence upon the planet in the transformation of the planet, in such a way that those who deal with the minerals, those who are in contact with minerals, should do this with much more responsibility than they have done in the past, because in the past, the mineral kingdom was not in the transition that they are at this moment, in the situation they are at this moment, of developing other qualities and even of having their form transformed. We know that the center Aurora, the planetary center of Aurora, is the center in charge of this work. We have the book Aurora, which gives us a greater contact with the center. And in our moments of silence, in our moments of introspection, or in our moments of reflection, we should have this in mind. Why? Because when we have something in mind, it means that we are in offering, and the evolutionary plan can use us for a certain work. In such a way that the mineral kingdom that is becoming more subtle is in need of beings who are more subtle to deal with it. It is in need of more sensible beings, more comprehensible beings, and less imposing beings, less aggressive, because they may be interfering in a process that we do not know, a process that is unknown to us, because mineralogy does not know these things. They know the minerals as they are, but they do not know what they are supposed to become. So all of us should have an attitude that is much more fraternal regarding this kingdom. And the kingdoms of nature are interconnecting, intercommunicating evermore. And we are supposed to be fraternal toward all of them, so that this fraternity may be implanted even among the kingdoms that have different levels of consciousness, because fraternity is something very universal. So you can be fraternal before a mineral, and within the universal fraternity, within the universal evolutionary law, this mineral will also be fraternal with you in its level, on its plane of consciousness. And those who use medicines that come from minerals must have realized this, because the medicines, when you speak of medicines, they act different in a different way in different people. The same medicine, depending on the relationship that this individual has developed with the ingredients of this medicine. And medicine can be produced of minerals or plants, and depending on our relationship with these kingdoms, we will have the effect of the medicine upon us. Well, the plant kingdom is the kingdom that comes afterwards, right after, as a development of consciousness. The plant kingdom, just like the human kingdom, is in a process of selection. There are plants that do not correspond to the future vibration of the planet, and they must continue to exist here as a plant kingdom. So these species are supposed to make a selection among beings who are involved with it. So all the plants are being purified, selected, and those that will not proceed on the planet are sent to other worlds or other planes of consciousness. The one who is leading the process of the plant kingdom here on Earth is the Venus consciousness. The Saturn consciousness is leading the mineral process, and the Venus consciousness is leading the plant process. And this consciousness of Venus is preparing vegetal plant forms that have such a beauty that is unknown here on earth. So forms of plants, flowers, are being prepared by the Venus consciousness, which will be much more educative for the beings, instructive for the beings on earth. The agriculous work should be very careful, because in the agriculture work we are dealing with the plant kingdom that is being selected. Our contact with the agriculture work gives us the information on how to help in the selection. But if we use all the agrotox, all the chemical fertilizers, and we use plants as a mere industrial product, and we are before agriculture only to produce, then we will not be collaborating with the plant kingdom at this moment. We won't be collaborating, and our contact with the plant kingdom will not be so positive. This has a reflection on our food in such a way that you can prepare food and it has a different effect in different people, because we have to see the relationship this person has with the plant kingdom. So this plant kingdom that we have to consider with much fraternity and respect, a certain work of transmutation is depending on this plant kingdom here on the planet. There are certain transmutations that human beings can do, as other transmutations are carried out by the animal kingdom, and other transmutations are carried out by the plant kingdom, in such a way that we do not know what a tree is doing in the field of transmutation, in a place. There where it was born, there where it grew, and where it is a tree. We don't know the role the tree plays there, because all of this is part of a plan. It is an engineering, a hidden, subtle engineering that places us close to one another, but also as kingdoms, in such a way that certain works that the human kingdom has to carry it out upon itself depends on certain transmutations that the plants, the trees carry out in the environment where they are, in such a way that we have to have these kingdoms as true collaborators of ours, and we should be true collaborators of these kingdoms. So we should pass far away from the schools of agriculture, and we should pass far away from many theories in this field, because really all of this is to be found again in a different level of knowledge, a different level of relationship. Without our having a certain inner contact, without our having a certain inner light, today we do not know what to do with a plant, truly. Given the condition, the circumstance that this plant is experiencing as a kingdom, and there are plants that are being selected and that before being sent to other places, they must fulfill a certain karma with us, in such a way that we do not know what plant to discard. We have to have respect for this. We have to have respect. As we have respect and understanding, we receive the light about what we are supposed to do. We have inner help to do this. We also have help from those consciousnesses who rule these kingdoms. Besides being ruled by the entities that rule the plant kingdom, The plants are ruled by devas. They have elementals that work in their form, that work in their vitalization, their growth. We have a lot of help in this sense. A true team that is around this plant kingdom so that it may fulfill its task at this moment. And the plant kingdom, of all the kingdoms of nature on the planet, the plant kingdom is the one that has fulfilled its role the most. The one has most corresponded to the evolutionary plan, more than all the others. Let us not speak of the human kingdom that has become a predator and usufructuary. So this plant kingdom is the one that has most corresponded to the plan that will always exist for each kingdom and for the kingdoms in common. Regarding the animal kingdom, we should basically know that the animals must approach individualization, because the mineral kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the animal kingdom to a certain point have a group soul. But in the animal kingdom, the process of individualization is taking place, depending also on our relationship with certain animals. The process of individualization in them will be more accelerated or less accelerated or even interrupted. So we are before the animal kingdom, before a very mysterious fact, because we don't know in which animal this is being worked in a more evolved, more advanced way. So we have to have the entire kingdom into account of something that is becoming individualized, so that each one will receive what they are supposed to receive from us. But we have to have our being open, giving of itself, giving of the stimulus, this respect, this love for a kingdom that is on the way to be individualized, and therefore in the next cycle, and who knows on each planet or world will be the human kingdom. So we are before future brothers and sisters of ours. So we should be before the animal kingdom with a different attitude, really. The other day, it was perceived that one human being was working inside of an animal, an evolved animal. He was not incarnated in the animal or possessing the animal. As a soul, this human being was carrying out a work within the animal. The work of forming the soul of this animal. There was already an individual beginning its trajectory, and this human being, through love, was working inside of this animal. Inside this animal, helping forming this soul. So you see the relationship that is being created for when this animal is a human being in a future cycle. You see this relationship that is being built. This is how the hierarchy of work, of service is built. So if we are in a service group, or if one day we are in a service group that was gathered in this way out of love, this group will be very effective for the planetary needs, and even for other needs that are even greater. The fact that we massacrate animals and use animals as food, and the fact that we have not managed to control our sexual energy, we haven't managed to have control over our sexual energy, is creating in the astral plane an energy that does not allow the animal kingdom as a whole to change the point it is. So this continuous massacre and this lack of subtlety of ours before the sexual energy that we also deal with, these two facts create in the planetary psychic plane a way, a density that is not allowing the animal kingdom to raise from the point where it is, unless one or another animal individual. It seems like the solar regency, the consciousness of the sun, is also working on this very directly. And it is working very directly in the sense that there may be effective and greater collaboration between these two kingdoms. Because the animal kingdom and the animal kingdom are much more connected between themselves than we can imagine. We are in an animal body. The human body is an animal body. And through the body, we have a relationship that is just like it is just the same with the animal kingdom. So if we don't elevate our consciousness, if our consciousness is not elevated, is not subtilized, the animal that has the same relationship through the body, that is in the same condition, this is a little conditioned to our lack of rhythm, our lack of willingness to raise from this human situation to a higher situation. We who are in the human kingdom, at this moment, we are like the consciousness of the planet. We represent the consciousness of the planet. When the other kingdoms would have to evolve and become the consciousness of the planet. And we, human beings, should be the super consciousness of the planet, not the material consciousness of the planet, but the super consciousness of the planet, the super consciousness. And for this, we should raise our polarization from this ego, this personality. We should raise it to the spiritual level, to the spiritual dimension, to the monadic experience, the divine dimension, so that we may give to the planet a different contribution. The human kingdom is the channel for certain higher energies to be introduced into the planet and mix with the aura of the planet. And if the human kingdom is not attuned with its most elevated levels, what it transmits to the planet is what humanity has always transmitted, in such a way that we should perfect our alignment also in function of the evolution of the planet, of the state of consciousness of the planet. You see, if we work upon ourselves so that we personally may elevate ourselves, this brings a result, doubtlessly. But if you work upon yourself, thinking about the planet, if you work on yourself to collaborate with the planet, your effort will be much more expanded. This will be much more perfected, and the result of this will not be able to be compared really. But we need to give up this selfishness of doing things for ourselves and do things for others, for other kingdoms, for life, for evolution, for the planet, for humanity. For that which we have an easier relationship, for that which we have a greater openness. Our point at this moment is not to be selfish, not to go around ourselves. This is the point. To stop with this. And there are human beings who have greater facility to decentrate themselves before the mineral kingdom. Others have greater facility to renounce themselves dealing with the plant kingdom. Others find it easier to deal with the animal kingdom, and others become decentrated dealing with the human kingdom, taking care of the human kingdom, serving the human kingdom. Each one has their smaller resistance before this work of communication, and we should not be proud and choose our way in which we have the least resistance. So if I can open my heart more easily toward the animals, I will deal with the animals, because my work at this moment is there. This is where I will open myself. This is where the energy of my soul will flow to the world, for the other kingdoms, for life at last. But if I feel that my least resistance is toward the human kingdom, then I will work with the human kingdom. So we shouldn't have no preference regarding service, but be in service, being at service where we can really be more useful. This is very important now.